Sonima Biswas, and the top story that we are following, of course, is the big boost which has been given to the vaccine drive, as there's finally an emergency use approval for Zydus Cadila's ZyCoV-D, which is a 3-dose vaccine which has been prepared and can be administered to children above the 12 years age group. In fact, it can be administered to all individuals, as we said, above the age group of 12 plus. Interestingly, this is also the world's DNA-based vaccine. It's needle-free and uses a plug-and-play technology which facilitates adaptability to deal with virus mutations. In fact, the vaccine has been developed in partnership with the government's Department of Biotechnology and the Biotechnology Industry Research Council. Health Minister Mansukh Mandaviya also pointed out, welcoming this approval, that this will not just be the first vaccine which is getting approval for children in the country, but also a needle-free vaccine. I'm joined on the broadcast by Mr. Rajib DasGupta, Chairperson, Center of Social Medicine and Community Health in JNU and member of the National AEFI Committee. Mr. DasGupta, thank you so much for joining us here on this broadcast. Firstly, sir, there's a lot of curiosity and interest, of course, about this particular vaccine. But one of the things which has been specifically mentioned, that it is a needle-free vaccine and a DNA-based vaccine. If you could just tell us, a lot of people want to know what will be the exact process of administering a needle-free vaccine.
Thank you. These are two somewhat different things. The aspect of needle-free is really the delivery aspect. So what it uses is a device called Tropis, which is a device largely used across the world currently in connection with the injectable polio vaccine administration. So it's a needle-free technology. This intradermal technology has been around for decades now. But in terms of the COVID vaccines, this is a first use of this technology. So it will do away with injections, with the fear of injections, with, say, needle stick injuries that health workers often suffer, producing a whole lot of plastic waste and so on. So those are the advantages. And particularly the fact that this is a vaccine which would initially be given to children in the 12 to 18-year age group. The fear of injection could be a large deterrent, and that's what this would negate. As far as the technology of the vaccine goes, the ZyCoV-D is what's known as a plasmid DNA vaccine. So this vaccine uses a genetically engineered type of DNA molecule, which is called a plasmid. And it is these plasmids which are coded with instructions to make the spike protein of the coronavirus, the SARS-CoV-2, which causes the COVID-19 disease. And therefore, this vaccination, in a sense, codes the cells in the recipient's body so that it begins to make this outer layer of the virus, and the immune system of the body recognizes this as a threat and develops the antibodies. So that essentially is the mechanism, and as was very rightly said in the earlier presentation, it has the adaptability, theoretically at least, to customize itself to various mutations.
Right. Right, Mr. DasGupta, I wanted you to expand on that. When we are saying that it is, adaptable to mutations, what exactly does it mean? Because that has also been one of the main concerns for health experts across the world, that they're trying really hard to catch up with the mutations which we are seeing, and some of the mutations, of course, more dangerous than the others. So how is there any particular advantage that this vaccine has?
Theoretically, yes. The fact that millions of cases are happening across the world means that a very large variety of variants would emerge. That's in a sense natural when such large numbers of infection happen. Now, of these large number of variants, some would be variants of interest or variants of concern. For example, the Delta variant now, and we have seen the enormity of that infection in India and currently in many other parts of the world. So as mutations will keep happening, it's not possible for all vaccines to be re-engineered every time. And therefore, the theoretical advantage that this vaccine offers is what's called a plug and play technology or a platform. And therefore, it is expected or it's anticipated that this would be able to respond to various mutations and not be very specific to a variant. We have seen this discussion in the both in the scientific literature and in the media whether a particular vaccine works against alpha or delta or lambda and so on.
Right. Also, sir, as you were saying that this is, of course, the first time that we are seeing an approval which is being given to a vaccine which is meant for the 12 plus age group, essentially children. So what are some of the precautions or what are some of the things, like a lot of parents might still be concerned about, their children getting vaccinated. What are some of the things that you would want to tell these parents, who might still want to make their children as safe as possible amid this pandemic?
Yes, that's a very important concern, and that's a concern with all new vaccines. Uh, the anxiety and the hesitancy is, in a sense, part of the normal response to a new technology, and particularly a vaccine. At the same time, in general, the vaccine demand is very high, and this is more or less true across the world. The demand is also high, or the anticipation is also high, because all of us, including children, want to join back to normal activities, whether it's schooling, whether it's play, whether it's travel and other activities. And therefore, it's important to address genuine anxieties and therefore be able to build up vaccine confidence and demand. One challenge with this vaccine is that it's 3 doses, 4 weeks apart, unlike the other COVID vaccines now, which are 2 doses at varying intervals. And therefore, this means that the child will have to visit the health center or the vaccination center three times. And that's something which is to be kept in mind, and that's something which has to be considered when it's a question of how much time it will actually take to build up the immunity. The company or the product will also apply for 2 dose regimen that's under consideration. But for present, what it's been authorized is for 3 doses. But then the fact that it's a needle free, it's a different technology that's delivering the vaccine, and it's not a deep injection into the arm muscle, but it's what's called an intradermal vaccine, which means that it's delivered into the superficial layer of the skin through a jet stream of the vaccine, and that's how it's embedded in the body. That should allay some of the fears and anxieties, both among children and parents.
Right. Also, sir, if you could just also tell us what are some of the things, if there are 3 things that parents should keep in mind ahead of, whenever the rollout happens of getting their children vaccinated, what are some of these key pointers that parents should keep in mind or prepare themselves and their children ahead of this vaccination?
So one of the highlights of this trial has been that it's been conducted in India, sorry, at the height of the second wave, and therefore the protection that we see of 66.6% for RT-PCR tested cases, that should instill a whole lot of confidence both in parents as well as in the program, and indeed it does. And therefore this is really good news and a welcome news. Second, that as the world is trying to achieve as closely as possible herd immunity, it is imperative that children, older children, adolescents, they are also included in the vaccination net, and therefore be able to protect the population and the society as a whole. And the role of vaccine will continue to be crucial, in addition to other interventions of COVID appropriate behavior, as we know. but the role of vaccine is going to be crucial. At the same time, childhood vaccination is not a mandatory requirement for school reopening, and many schools are already opening up in states. Different states are taking somewhat different decisions, and so are different countries. So that's something that it shouldn't be
Right.
linked to.
Right. Mr. DasGupta there joining us on this very important conversation about ZyCoV-D. Thank you so much for joining us and explaining what all this means for our viewers to understand.